Miriam here. I decided to make a video um, regarding how I ended up here. Um, as many of you have know from my previous videos, I recently had gastric bypass um, just so I can lose some weight and become healthier. In the previous videos, I have addressed um, the health side of it for reasons why I ended up getting gastric bypass, like being able to get rid of my diabetes and few of the other health issues that I have, like sleep apnea and others. But I don't think I've ever addressed how I ended up in the situation that I am now, and I really would like to address that earlier than later before people start um, asking me why exactly I decided to get surgery so I can lose weight. Um, I've been gaining weight as far as I can remember since I was very young. I think I was around 8 or 9 years old when I realized that I was heavier than most of my friends. Um, it all started because I had a few things happen in my childhood and early adulthood where um, they were all pretty negative, and some of them I really didn't know how to deal with. So the food became a very big comfort for me. So basically, instead of dealing with my emotions properly, I basically would eat through my emotions, and that started very early on, and I ended up learning that the best way to deal with my emotions at the time would be through eating, and it would mostly be a lot of junk, honestly. You know, a lot of baked stuff. I would eventually end up going to a lot of fast food restaurants and eating through that. And honestly, I ended up binge eating a lot. Now, I was never actually diagnosed as a binge eater, but I did have signs of it. Anytime I was upset about anything, would there be like a breakup or some kind of disagreement with friends or anything like that, the only way I would I knew how to comfort myself was through eating, and it kind of snowballed to the point where I would end up eating way too much. Um, when I was a teenager, I was already very overweight, and I was also a swimmer at the time. So I was on a high school swim team, and I was doing pretty good considering my weight, but I was still very unhealthy and still didn't really know how to deal with my emotions and didn't really understand that I was doing harm to myself. Um, Eventually, I figured out that I was harming myself through um, eating the way I did, just because I wasn't really truly dealing with my emotions, I was just eating through them. And I did try going on different diets and different weight loss programs. Um, I did end up going through things like Weight Watchers, and I did do some diet pills. There were some diet injections that you do for hormones to try to lose weight. Um, I saw a couple different nutritionists, but honestly, nothing really worked. I mean, they would work, and then I would go back to my old ways. I think I started working on my weight loss when I was about 17 or 18, and I was just literally yo-yoing from one diet to another. Also, when I was 18 years old, I found out that I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS, which basically means that my ovaries don't really work properly. Basically, what it is that it can cause cysts on ovaries, which can be very painful at times. It can impact hormones, especially estrogen and progesterone. It affects menstrual cycles. I actually had a lot of excess facial hair, which I was able to get rid of thanks to laser hair removal, which took me about, I want to say, a good 4 or 5 years to fully get rid of my facial hair. So I found out that I had PCOS when I was 18. At the time, when my doctor recommended for me to go on birth control pill, which is basically estrogen based birth control pill, and ideally it was supposed to help with my PCOS, and honestly it did partially, but I did have some side effects. With PCOS, it helped because my periods became more regular. Again, before the medications, my periods would be maybe 3 or 4 times a year, maybe 5 times a year, and very heavy and very painful. The the pills that I was on at age 18, or at least I started at age 18, helped with making my uh, cycle more regular. I would end up getting a cycle every month, and the bleeding became better, and the pain that I had with PCOS went away, or mostly went away. However, it actually started affecting my um, emotional side more. It actually made me even more emotional, to the point that um, I felt like I needed to binge it even more frequently. Um, Also, at the time, when I was 18 and going through 19, I actually started working out with a private um, instructor, and I was working out a lot. Basically, all I did was work out every day, 7 days a week, like 3 or 4 hours a day, and all I did was work out and sleep. But I wasn't really dealing with my emotional side. Like, I ended up losing a lot of weight, but when I was still on a hormonal replacement pills and birth control pill, that was actually making my emotions just go haywire, and I actually ended up losing about, I want to say maybe 40 to 50 pounds at the time, but I ended up gaining it all back. Now, I'm not blaming it on all on the birth control pill, but it was a significant factor to me being emo- slightly unstable emotionally, and just me just burying my feelings into food. Um, so I ended up getting my weight back um, around age 20. I did stop taking not progesterone, estrogen pills at the time, just because I kind of started realizing that it was affecting me negatively when it came to my emotions. But I still didn't really deal with the emotional side of the weight loss, so I ended up going to Weight Watchers and some other nutritionists and things like that. Eventually, I came to realize that if I didn't deal with the um, way I looked at myself first, I would probably not be able to lose weight at all. I um, I started opening up to people a little bit more about my feelings and things that happened in the past. I started talking more about it, and I was able to work through um, some of the pain that I went through. And honestly, I'm okay now. That doesn't really bother me anymore. Um, but while I was dealing with the emotional side, I was gaining more and more weight because it is a vicious cycle. My highest weight was 320 pounds, and I'm 5 foot tall, and being 320 pounds when you're 5 foot tall is really high weight. And 2 years ago, I entered a program to get started with getting approval for bariatric surgery. At that time, I had already dealt with my emotional side of my weight loss, and I knew that I was going to be okay, and I knew that I didn't need to binge eat anymore to make myself feel better. However, just because I was already 320 pounds, I was already used to eating the way I was. I really needed something drastic to help me to lose weight and sustain the weight loss. Um, in my previous video, I mentioned all kinds of things that I had to do in order to get an approval for my surgery, and it is very time consuming. I had to see all kinds of different doctors. My surgeon's program actually requires a psychiatric clearance before they even sign you up for surgery or approve you for surgery. Um, so honestly, that's probably one of the best things to do is to go make sure that you're psychologically ready for this journey. Um, it took me a long time to get approval, but I did, and finally had the surgery done. Um, and I am mentally ready to do this. It is, it is kind of hard some days because I've only had this done 2 months ago, and it's still a struggle sometimes. But now I know that I can actually sustain this for long term and actually make myself healthy again. Um, so thank you for watching, and bye.